I've got a feeling that the Trudeau government will lose that one. People are not very happy about all of the policies. Some of the major ones, obviously, are the carbon taxes and the tax burdens, and a lot that they're doing a lot of things that they're doing in the name of climate change and protecting the planet. And there are kind of two problems with that, I think, that people consider. There's two problems or two concerns around the whole green agenda that the Trudeau government is pushing very hard. The first one is, are you actually doing something logical that can work? Because you've got these carbon taxes that they're charging, but they're not doing much with the carbon taxes. It's not like, okay, we've collected so many billions and we've put up this plant that's going to suck carbon from the air, or we've put up chargers so people can drive their electric cars all the long distances or stuff like that. There's not a lot of that happening. No, they're giving the money back to the families, they say. But anyway, for whatever it's so it's almost more not like a tax that they're collecting to, and that's just my viewpoint. I might be 100% wrong, and if I am, please in the comments explain. That's it is what it is. Don't be rude and nasty. I mean, that's not the point. I love to learn more. Any which way, back to the point is like, it seems like the carbon tax is just more of a penalty than anything else. So it's not actually money that they're collecting to do stuff. Think about it like a strata or a body corporate at a complex. You know, if the body corporate comes to you and they say, or your strata comes to you and they say, hey, we're going to charge everybody $100 a month extra because we are going to fix the gate, or we're going to put a fence, or we're going to build a pool, or whatever. They start collecting that money, and you know what the money is for, and they are going to use the money for that. And you can see, oh, they've collected all the money, they've built the pool, now they stop collecting because we have a pool, it's done, or the gate is fixed, or the fence is fixed. You know, that is when you are collecting money for a purpose. And initially when the carbon tax was started, that's what they were pitching. We're collecting this money for a purpose. Now, it's almost more like it's a penalty. And think about it this way. It's almost like the body corporate is saying, hey, we are just going to tax you extra. You have to pay because you drive too much. So every time you drive on this road, you have to pay, but we are not going to use the money to fix the actual road. It's more just like a penalty to get you to drive less. And sometimes that's the feeling I get with this whole carbon tax. It's just like, oh, it's just a penalty to freaking, I don't know, get people to use less energy. But energy is life. That's what it's all about. So that's the first concern. The second concern that I'm still trying to get my head around, as far as the Canada and I suppose a large part of the West's green policies go. I mean, Canada is the richest, one of the countries on Earth, the second largest country on Earth. We've got some of the greatest natural resources, oil and gas and all of those things. And in the name of climate change, we are not using it. We are not actually exploring and really going into our natural resources because we're holding back, because we are protecting the planet against climate change. Now, with climate change, there's a couple of things that are, you know, my opinion, I guess, that I don't, and I'm just like, what do they say? Follow the man that's searching from the truth and run from the one that's found it. I haven't found the truth. I'm still trying to figure out what is going on. You know, so, but I'm also a very logical thinker. So one of the things is, as soon as you say anything against climate change, you become a climate denier. Now, I'm not a climate denier. I know that the climate is changing. I know that the climate has changed regularly since the start, or since the birth of our planet. You can just go to science and check through it. I mean, I always find it really funny when they go, yeah, this river is the lowest level since 1874, and it's all because of climate change. And then I'm like, okay, if it is today the lowest level since 1874 because of climate change, what was the reason in 1874 when it was lower? Because then there weren't any climate change. I still remember clearly when I was in, when I lived in Northern Cape in Kennard. It was funny. We walked around there, and it's an arid, dry place. And that was in the 90s, early 90s. It's a dry, it's a semi-arid, semi-desert countryside. And I used to see pictures from 100 years ago where it was like savannas, it was grasslands, it was beautiful. So, it's changed, it did change. And then a couple of years ago it started raining again, and then it became beautiful again, and then it became dry again. The reality is that we humans think we're so awesome. We are just tiny little things on this planet, and this planet's going to carry on for long after humans stop existing. Ask the dinosaurs. So yes, climate changes, and it has. We've had ice ages, we had whole warm periods. It's all there in the science. There's no denying that. Climate changes. So now let's look at the next part of it. Are the humans expediting the climate change? Are we causing climate change? Likely, yes. You can't, the science is there. We put these gases up, they reflect, blah, blah, blah. We are causing climate change, or we are speeding it up. I do not deny it. Just like the dinosaurs caused climate change with all their farts or whatever. All of the other times there was a cause for climate change. Yes, we are causing climate change. I believe it. Now, this is the tricky part. Are we going to stop climate change if Canada stops using fossil fuels? Well, no. That's not going to stop climate change. Unless every country on Earth stops using fossil fuels, unless every country on Earth stops pumping shit into the atmosphere, that's not going to stop climate change. Canada stopping it and punishing its people is not going to change a thing. Canada, the actual amount of carbon put into the air by Canada is minute in the bigger scheme of things. It's minute compared to the amount of carbon that puts, or bad gases that gets put into the air in China. It's minute by the stuff that gets put into the air in places like Nigeria and everywhere else. So, how does that factor? How does Canada stopping fix the problem? If Canada stops and China and America doesn't stop, it's going to make zero difference. So, I don't know, it sounds horrible. It's a catch-22. I know it's like, okay, yeah, but if somebody has to be first. The reality is, people are people. People are always going to try and make better for themselves. And not everybody is going to be like, oh wow, Canada has stopped, so we're all going to stop using it. The reality is energy. Without energy, people don't exist. From the time people started progressing, from the time they learned how to harness energy, from the time they learned how to make a fire and how to cook their food on the fire, energy is directly connected to our quality of life. We are not going to stop using energy. So I don't think the solution for climate change is to just ban fossil fuels. That's just not going to help. Nobody is going to, millions and millions of people are going to die. There are better solutions. There's things to do. Why not spend money on trying to figure out how to fix it? Why not say, okay, hang on a second, carbon capture, or yes, let's do this. In Alberta, they're working on technologies to bring down the amount of carbon that gets, like better technologies There were guys that came up with an idea of seeding the upper atmosphere. There was one time when the planets, in recent memory, when the planet cooled for a little bit, for a short period of time, and I can't remember exactly which year it was, but it was in the last 10 or 15 years, if I remember correctly. I read this article. What happened was that it was a big volcanic eruption in Iceland, and what happened was the volcano blew so hard that it pushed a bunch of ash into the stratosphere. And basically, because this new ash in the stratosphere spread around the Earth, it created a little bit of shade and it cooled the Earth down a little bit. It stopped the heating for a while. Now, we are getting smart. We have technologies. We can do that. How about, instead of trying to stop and cut the use of energy, how about rather looking at figuring out ways to control that? I mean, there was this one think tank with a bunch of professors that said, based on that, if we take the coal power plant and we stick a very long chimney on it so that it has the ability, like a couple of kilometer long chimney on it that could tie to weather balloons, so it has the ability to let its exhaust gases go into the stratosphere, that can then create the shadow effect, and it will give us the ability to control. Now, I know that sounds horrible, but it will give us the ability to control the amount of heat that reaches the Earth. So it is obviously a can of worms. You know, if you screw it up, you can really screw it up, which is one of the arguments. But then again, we live on a planet with, what's it now, 7 billion people, 8 billion, I don't even know where we're at. There's this guys that are, I don't know, one country in South America, they now got a license, and what they're doing is they've raised money and they're going to go and drop stuff into the stratosphere, like what is it again, sulfur. They're going to go drop sulfur into the stratosphere because they believe it's going to be able to cool the place down again. I suppose that's the problem with humans. You know, obviously a lot of people are losing their minds about it. They're like, how can you do this? You can't go and you know, it's like, you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know how it's gonna play out. You can't be going in there and dropping sulfur into the stratosphere. And most countries said no, but the guy found a country that said, okay, yeah, cool, we think it'll work, so it is going to happen. I guess the bottom line really is like, how are you going to change this? How are you going to, unless it's a unified thing done by everybody around the world, it's not going to change. You know, it's like a lot of people were saying that Canada has got now such strict on production and making of products and things. Canada has got such strict environmental rules that people are now outsourcing a lot of it. Just like, I'm closing my factory here and I'm opening it in China because China doesn't care. So I now produce the stuff in China for cheaper, and they don't care about, they don't have all of these rules and regulations, all of these green rules and regulations. So it costs me a lot cheaper to manufacture it there, and then I import it into Canada. So the Canadians still use it. The carbon still goes into the air. It just doesn't go into the air in Canada. It goes into the air in China. So how does that solve the problem? Like, sometimes these things blow my mind. I just don't know how to, I don't know what the answer is. And I don't know if enough people is actually speaking about it. And when I say speaking about it, I'm talking about actually speaking about it and actually thinking and actually trying to find a solution. Because from what I see with politics and activists and blah, 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 it's like, it doesn't look like they're actually talking about it. It doesn't look like they're actually trying to find a solution. It feels more like you have, it's wow. It's like people standing opposite each other and trying to scream the loudest and thinking the one that screams the loudest is going to be the one that it makes them right. Because I can shout the loudest, I have to be right. I'm not prepared to listen to the other people's argument. I'm not prepared to even consider what they are saying because I know that I am right and that is what I'm going to go with. Feels like there's a lot of that happening in the world these days on lots of different topics. People are not talking to each other. People are not listening to each other. Anyway, so, well, that gives you an idea of where I stand on the whole climate change thing. I think it's being handled very poorly. And I think that in Canada specifically, it is being handled very poorly at the cost of the Canadian citizens compared to the rest of the world. The thing is, it's like tying your guys up when they have to run a race against the other people. It's like, oh, well, we're all going to go into this race and what we're going to do is the guys from Saudi Arabia, they can run with the spikes and everything, but the guys from Canada, well, we're going to tie their feet together and put them in the race because we believe in our policies. Anyway, it was a long rant. Sorry, guys.